In a remote village, the life of a woman named Fatima was shrouded in suffering and humiliation. The villagers called her Barren Fatima, as if that stigma had been permanently attached to her name. Despite countless prayers to the Almighty Allah, she could not erase this scar of barrenness. One afternoon, Fatima was skillfully kneading flour into dough. Just then, her elderly mother-in-law, Yusuf, said sharply, "Fatima, your dough is just like your womb, cold and lifeless." But Fatima remained busy with her work, not even lifting her eyes. These piercing words had wounded her heart so many times that they no longer showed visible effect. They only burned inside, like glowing embers. At that moment, her husband Yusuf returned from the fields. One glance at his mother and wife and he understood everything. Yet no words of protest or comfort came from his mouth. Taking a glass of water, he said hoarsely, "The fields are thirsty, but my home is even thirstier for a child." His words echoed his mother's cruelty, another stab to Fatima's heart. That night, when everyone was asleep, Fatima stood by the small wooden window. In the silver light of the moon, she looked at her hands and whispered, "These hands can sow love, harvest wheat, and bake bread. O Allah, are these hands truly barren? Do they not deserve to bear the fruit of your creation?" But the silent sky gave no reply. Only a cool breeze dried the tears caught at the corner of her eyes. One day, Fatima was mending Yusuf's old clothes. Her mother-in-law said to him, "How much longer like this? Your hair is turning white, but this house has never heard the cry of a child to carry your name. Do you want your bloodline to vanish? The villagers say, there is no echo in Yusuf's house. I can no longer bear this shame." Hearing this, the needle stopped in Fatima's hand. Each word struck her chest like a hammer. Then Yusuf said, "What fault is it of Fatima's, mother? For 10 years she has served our household faithfully." The mother laughed bitterly. "Did you marry her for service or for children? No matter how much you water barren soil, it remains barren. I have found you new land. Mukhtar's daughter, Aisha, beautiful as the moon, filled with modesty and fertility. You will marry her. That is my decision." At these words, Fatima's heart trembled with fear. The walls of the house seemed to close in on her. Then Yusuf, to her shock, replied, "Mother, do whatever you think is right. I have no objection." In that moment, something inside Fatima broke forever, never to be mended again. This was not yet a decision to abandon her, but it was a step in that direction. She felt like an old piece of furniture whose time had run out. That evening, Yusuf entered her room and said, "I'm getting married next week. I owe you no explanation. My mother wants it, and I must obey." Fatima looked at him. For the first time, her eyes held neither tears nor pleading, only a deep, terrifying silence. As the wedding day approached, the whole village erupted in joy. Songs, laughter, and celebrations. From her small window, she saw village girls dancing in colorful clothes and young men celebrating with drums, the festival of a new bride. In the midst of this festivity, Yusuf came to her. Dressed in his finest clothes, wearing a fragrance she had never known on him, he said harshly, "What are you doing here? Should the new bride see you, you cannot stay in this house. At the edge of the village lies the barren land your father gave you. That is now your place. I never want to see your face in this house again." Fatima stood frozen. She had no father, no mother, no relatives. Only that rocky land inherited from her father, the cursed land everyone mocked. And now Yusuf wanted to bury her alive in that same soil. Slowly, Fatima nodded. Calmly, she gathered her old shawl, scarf, and a few belongings into a small bundle. At the doorway, she paused. Without turning back, she said in a steady voice, "You have taken the years of my life. I ask no price for them. You have driven me out of my home. I will not complain to anyone. But know this, the soil you despise may one day become greater than this very house." Then she left, walking through the village outskirts. When she was far away, she stopped beneath an old tree. In solitude, she let a single tear fall. It was not a tear of weakness, but a farewell to the home she had built with her own hands. At dawn, Fatima reached her land. Fate had brought her to a hut of mud and stone, its cracked walls on the verge of collapse. The roof was made of palm trunks and leaves, riddled with holes, as though the sky itself leaned over her loneliness. Opening the wooden door, she stepped inside. The damp smell of earth filled the air, and in one corner, cobwebs clung like remnants of forgotten time. Yet Fatima felt no fear, no despair. She placed her small bundle neatly in a corner and stepped outside to gaze at her new kingdom. It was a barren field, littered with stones and thorns. The earth was hard and cracked, like the wrinkled face of an old woman long neglected. It looked like her own reflection, barren, abandoned. She removed her shoes and walked barefoot across the soil. The prick of stones and the chill of the morning ground awakened her senses. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply. Here, no one accused her, no one pitied her, no one looked down on her. Here there was only herself, the earth, and the sky. She picked up a handful of dry soil. Her father's words came back to her. The earth never betrays. Whoever loves it, it returns that love. Looking at the soil, Fatima whispered, "You are like me. They abandoned you, called you barren, but I see unseen life within you. We will work together. I will water you with my sweat, and if it dries, I will moisten you with my tears." And so Fatima began her new life there. The first days were unbearably hard. She tried to break the hard ground, but her hands bled. With crude tools, she struck the soil, but barely made a dent. At night, exhausted, she would sit and stare at the little progress she had made, while doubt pierced her heart.
One morning, Fatima went to fetch water from a dried-up spring when she saw an old woman approaching, leaning on her staff. People said she knew the language of plants and the hidden secrets of herbs. The old woman stood before Fatima and said, "You cannot fight hard soil with strength alone, my child. For that, you need knowledge." People make the mistake of thinking all soil is the same. But every soil has its own nature. This soil is thirsty and stubborn. It will not accept wheat or barley. It waits for a seed that is like itself. Fatima remained silent. The old woman then pulled out a small cloth pouch from her pocket. Inside were dry, black seeds that looked like tiny stones. She continued, "This is a plant the world has forgotten. It grows between rocks, blooms in the driest seasons, and its roots reach deep, searching for hidden moisture. Its flowers are small and purple, with 3 red threads at their heart. The villagers scorn it as a worthless weed flower, but in the distant cities, it is sold at the price of gold. Its name is saffron." Fatima's eyes widened. She had heard of saffron, but never knew such a precious plant could grow in this hopeless soil. The old woman handed her the pouch and said, "These are yours. They need little water, only patience and care. Plant them before the first autumn rain and let the soil do the rest." Fatima returned with the seeds, her heart awakened with new hope. She labored for days, preparing a small patch of ground. Then, when the first gentle winds of autumn arrived, she whispered Bismillah and sowed the seeds. Soon after, the autumn rains fell, as if the heavens were blessing her efforts. Fatima stood in the rain, drenched and overjoyed. Weeks passed, yet nothing appeared on the surface. Every day, she tended the soil, clearing weeds, while the village women watched from afar, laughing and mocking her. But Fatima paid them no heed. Winter came with biting cold. Fatima survived on dry bread and wild herbs. Her body grew weak, yet each morning she went to her field, caring for her seeds as a mother tends her child. One day, the old woman returned. She looked at Fatima's rough, wounded hands and said, "The hands that sow goodness into the soil are never left empty. Be patient, Fatima. Patience is the key to every lock." Fatima lowered her head and said, "I am afraid, Auntie. What if the well runs dry? What if I make a mistake while weaving my dream? What will become of me then?" The old woman smiled and said, "The mistake is to think that Allah plants hope in your heart but will not let it bloom. Look at your hands. Do they look like a mistake? I see in them the promise of flowers." Then, one spring morning, Fatima went to her field and froze in astonishment. From the soil had emerged a thin green thread. Her heart leapt as she bent down. Yes, it was no mirage, but a living plant. Soon she saw another and another until dozens of sprouts pierced the earth. Joy surged through her like a river. Fatima began caring for her plants with renewed energy. Day by day they grew taller, their leaves reaching towards the sky. But she knew the true treasure had not yet arrived. The purple flowers whose hearts held the golden red threads, saffron. She knelt down and touched one flower with her fingers. Its softness was like silk, cool to the touch. She realized the time for harvest had come. With a straw basket in hand, Fatima gently plucked the red threads one by one. She dried them under the sun, then stored them carefully in cloth sacks. Soon, her humble hut was filled with the fragrance of saffron. With trembling heart, Fatima took her first harvest to the city market. She was nervous, but she did not turn back. Entering an old merchant's shop, she opened her sack with shaking hands. The merchant examined the threads, smelled their aroma, and dropped one into water. Instantly, the water turned golden. The merchant gasped, "Where did you find this saffron, mother? I have not seen such quality in years." He paid Fatima a generous sum of money and bought all she had. Fatima returned to her hut with provisions, carefully saving the remaining coins. She raised her hands in gratitude to Allah. Soon word of her saffron spread. Merchants from the city began visiting her hut, calling her the Saffron Queen. With her earnings, she bought better tools, expanded her land, and repaired her home. Fatima had become a wealthy, respected woman. Then came the dreadful year of drought. The springs dried up, and wheat and barley fields withered. Panic swept through the village. Yusuf's vast farmland turned to dust, filled only with the cries of crows. But Fatima's field was different. The saffron plants with their deep roots stood firm. The drought could not harm them. Fatima gazed at her land and offered thanks to Allah. Villagers, awestruck, began calling her field the miracle land. Yet Fatima ignored their words and kept working quietly. One day, Yusuf himself came to her. Worry lines creased his forehead. Standing before Fatima, he said, "Fatima, the drought has destroyed everything. My house has no food left. Aisha has gone back to her father's home. People tell me how successful you have become. I have come to ask something from you. Whatever price you demand, I will pay." Fatima looked at him calmly and replied, "You did not cast me out to this land, Yusuf. You sent me back to it. This is my land, my father's land. I am its rightful owner now. I do not take revenge, for Allah alone is the avenger. But I do not forget the past either. If you want to buy from me, you will pay the same price as the city merchants. For the poor and needy of the village, my doors are always open. But you must pay for every single grain." Yusuf lowered his head in shame. He had no choice but to agree. Dear viewers, when an oppressor, once arrogant, stands humbled before you, begging for what lies in your hands, what is true victory? Is it through unconditional forgiveness, through justice that restores dignity, or through revenge? Write your thoughts in the comments below. Stay well. May Allah protect you.